Good morning. Coming up on the show, the House of Representatives passes the annual defense budget bill. This year's budget is the largest increase in defense spending. We find out why.
Saudi Arabia is opening its airspace to Israeli flights. It's a step toward normalizing relations between the two nations.
Ivana Trump, former President Donald Trump's first wife and mother of his three oldest children, dies at 73.
During times of high inflation and worker shortages, one expert gives some insight into how businesses should stay focused on their most important asset, people. Good morning, I'm Kevin Hogan.
Good morning, I'm Evelyn Lee. Today is July 15th. We just made it through another week. And first off, this Friday morning, Democrats and Republicans united in the House of Representatives yesterday, voting to pass the annual defense budget bill. One thing that sticks out, though, this year's bill is the largest increase in defense spending history. Why? Here's NTD's Jeremy Sandberg.
Lawmakers spent 2 days finalizing the annual national defense bill, agreeing to the top line of $840 billion. The package funds military initiatives at home and abroad.
I think this has been an incredibly inclusive process, starting in the committee in a bipartisan way and moving to the floor where we've had the opportunity for all members to contribute and participate in this process. I think we have a good product.
The bill authorizes $37 billion more than President Biden requested. Reasons given by lawmakers for the increase include funding for Ukraine, countering threats from China, and accounting for inflation. The Pentagon receives a $37 billion boost and will be required to brief Congress on coordination between China and Russia. The bill also aims to recruit more military personnel.
We also have a looming recruiting crisis on our hands. I'm very concerned about the inability of any of the services to meet their recruiting goals, and we are going to have to spend a lot of time thinking about that problem and how we fix it.
It includes a 4.6% pay increase for service members and bonuses to counter inflation.
It strengthens our security, including investments in the next generation of our defense technology.
This year's House bill rebuked Biden's policy on Turkey with an amendment restricting the president's ability to sell F-16 fighter jets to the country, citing concerns about violating other countries' territory, human rights issues, and purchasing Russian weapons. Before selling or transferring F-16 fighter jets or F-16 modernization kits to Turkey, the president will have to certify to Congress that it has not violated the sovereignty of Greece in a preceding 120-day period. The bill authorizes 13 new warships and 64 F-35 fighter jets, 3 more than initially requested by the Pentagon. The bill is likely to pass in the Senate, where the Armed Services Committee already backed an even larger increase before heading to the president's desk for his signature. Jeremy Sandberg, NTD News.
This is the second straight year Democrats and Republicans have approved large increases to President Biden's Pentagon spending plan.
Saudi Arabia is opening its airspace to Israeli flights. The announcement comes today as President Biden visits the region. The end of the ban is a step toward normalizing relations between the two countries. Biden will be the first U.S. leader to fly directly from Israel to Saudi Arabia. The kingdom's aviation authority posted a press release to Twitter making the announcement, saying their airspace will now be open to all air carriers that meet the requirements of the authority. The development builds on the strong but informal ties recently developed between the two nations over shared concerns about Iran's growing influence in the region.
Ivana Trump, the ex-wife of former President Donald Trump and the mother of his 3 oldest children, has died at age 73.
Ivana Trump, first wife of former President Donald Trump and the mother of his 3 children, and who helped build his real estate empire, has died, Donald Trump said on Thursday. In a post on his social media platform, Trump said, quote, "I am very saddened to inform all of those that loved her, of which there are many, that Ivana Trump has passed away at her home in New York City." The couple married in 1977 and divorced in 1992. Their 3 children, Donald Jr., Ivanka, and Eric, were part of Trump's Apprentice reality show, with Ivanka later working in the Trump administration. Ivana Trump grew up under communist rule in the former Czechoslovakia and, quote, taught her children about grit and toughness, compassion and determination, the family said in a statement. Neither the Trump family nor the former president mentioned the cause of her death. A former model who once trained for the Czechoslovakian junior national ski team, Ivana played a role in building the Trump media image in the 1980s when they were one of New York City's most prominent power couples. She worked alongside her husband in developing Trump Tower, his signature building on Fifth Avenue in Manhattan, and other high-profile projects, such as the Trump Taj Mahal Casino and Resort in Atlantic City, New Jersey, according to the New York Times. The couple's divorce, which came after Trump's highly publicized affair with Marla Maples, whom he later married, was fodder for the New York tabloids. The family said Ivana, who was 73, is survived by her mother, her 3 children, and 10 grandchildren.
Thousands of people in New York, California, and other parts of the U.S. are waiting for monkeypox vaccination because of supply issues. Before the vaccine producer in Denmark could ship the 1 million doses ordered by the U.S., they were waiting for FDA approval of an on-site inspection. An FDA spokeswoman said Wednesday the inspection is now complete. New York City's system for scheduling vaccination appointments crashed this week because of high online traffic. The tally in the 5 boroughs hit a total of 336 reported cases Wednesday, up 113 from the 223 recorded just 2 days before. The U.S. government has shipped around 130,000 doses of the vaccine to health departments, with over 20,000 sent to New York City and more than 40,000 to California. Vaccines are being distributed based on an area's case numbers and on whether areas have populations that are considered high risk. Most of the roughly 1,000 cases reported in the U.S. have been among homosexual men, but health officials say anyone can get the disease as it is passed by skin-to-skin contact.
What we're seeing now is something very unusual. These are non-endemic cases, and you're talking about 11,000 throughout the world. The 1,000 in the United States is probably an undercount. We should be and will be testing literally 10 times the amount of people that we were testing prior, because we believe that the prevalence of this in the community is great.
The current number of reported cases is likely an undercount because testing is still ramping up. The CDC estimates around 1.5 million American men are eligible for the vaccine based on their HIV status and other risk factors.
We have a quick update on the flooding in Virginia. Everyone has been accounted for in Buchanan County. The chief deputy announced there were 0 fatalities at a news conference yesterday. As many as 18 search and rescue teams were dispatched to the area in and around Whitewood, Virginia. The region experienced heavy flooding triggered by heavy rains. More than 400 structures were destroyed. Many roads and bridges were washed out by mudslides. All 44 people previously unaccounted for have now been located.
Here's a story about how some missing family members were found. Nancy Howell was concerned her 67-year-old mother didn't make it home from church after the flash flooding, so she turned to Facebook for help, describing her mother's red Honda Civic. About an hour later, a Facebook friend from high school posted a picture of her mom's car stuck in a mudslide. In a post, a man said he worked with a rescue crew to help her mom get out of the car safely. Then the Buchanan County Sheriff's Office called to tell Howell her mom was safe. When many landlines were knocked out in the storm, the internet became a real lifeline.
And next, a new effort aimed at keeping students safe. Georgia's second largest school district just approved a new policy. It will allow some employees to carry guns in schools without being certified police officers. Teachers are excluded from those who can be armed. The 4-2 vote by suburban Atlanta's Cobb County School Board split along partisan lines. This is sparking discontent among opponents, including gun control activists. Georgia schools have been able to arm teachers and other personnel under a state law passed in 2014. Following a 2018 school shooting in Parkland, Florida, some of Georgia's 180 districts approved policies to arm non-officers on campus. The move is explicitly a response to the school shooting in Uvalde, Texas, that killed 19 students and 2 teachers in May.
Despite California having one of the best stretches of land to grow crops in the nation, it's not easy to run a farm in the state. A Southern California family farm shared with NTD's Jackie Rios what difficulties they are facing coming from both inside and out.
A lot of the produce we consume every day comes from places like Mexico, Chile, Peru, and elsewhere. And some of it even comes from right here in Irvine, California. But for how much longer? We visited Ann and Dan Manicero, third-generation farmers here in Orange County, to find out what's happening with family farms. The family said that no matter what they do, it's harder and harder to compete.
We have high cost of labor and obviously the fuel and all of that stuff that's going on. Whereas when they bring produce in from, say, somewhere like Mexico or one of the other countries, they don't have the minimum wage and they don't have the regulation and all of the things that we face here being American farmers.
She pointed out how much California pays compared to other states and even countries.
Well, for instance, California, I believe we have the highest minimum wage in the country, and which is $15 an hour. When you compare that to, say, Mexico, they're paying $3 an hour as compared to $15. They're basically getting like $15 a day, whereas we're paying that per hour.
On top of high wages, inflation is not only impacting the family's products, but also the cost of buying equipment to keep the farm in business.
When you grow produce, everything goes in a box. That cost has gone up 50% in the last year, if you can believe that. That cost of that tractor just went up 30% in the last year that we wanted to get. And they're not even available because there's supply issues with that.
While subsidies may be available to some U.S. farmers, Manicero Farm says they're on their own.
No, it's just an open market, supply and demand. If there's a lot, you don't get a good price. If there's a very little short crop, you might get a better price, but there's no subsidies for any kind of produce right now.
Since the conflict in Ukraine, headlines have recently come out of impending food shortages.
There's no shortages yet. They haven't harvested the wheat and the corn crops in the Midwest. They could get wiped out. It could be 50% less than they expect. So they can't, I mean, right now they're working on last year's products and crops. So, but going forward, there could be, of course, shortages.
According to the USDA, currently there are no food shortages. As for their farm, they hope to keep it in the family.
This is a designated green space, and hopefully it will always stay that way because we're running out of farmland. We're an urban farmer, and the more that the urban building encroaches on us, the less land we have to be able to farm.
The Maniceros said they hope the community can help support not just them, but other growers in the Golden State.
I just want to say you should support your local farms, especially in the way things are going now. You need the local farms. You want to eat healthy. You want to eat fresh produce and stay away from all the processed stuff.
Orange County was once dominated by agriculture, and although the landscape has changed dramatically, Manicero Farms is doing all it can to hold on and keep the family farm alive. Jackie Rios, NTD News, California.
And small businesses are having a hard time keeping a positive outlook recently. We already know that the Small Business Optimism Index hit an all-time low. One of the top concerns, worker shortage. Half of all business owners surveyed say they can't fill open positions. I asked one expert for advice on this. Joining me now is Carly Walden. She's the president and COO of Talent War Group. It's good to have you, Carly.
Hey, thanks for having me today.
Average American worker lost almost $3,500 in annual wages because of inflation. How can employers help employees manage and alleviate some of the pressure?
Sure, absolutely. So there's several creative ways to go about this, and they're all going to be based around compensation. The first one is obviously looking at to make sure that your employees are being paid competitively against the market. But there's other ways such as looking at remote and hybrid options. We did that during COVID, and a lot of organizations found out that they were super successful at it, right? And so that at the gas pump, that's really that's the number one thing that employees are feeling right now. So if businesses have the opportunity to kind of go back to that, that's one way to help. with alleviating the inflation surge for your employees. Another way about going about it is maybe paying your employees full benefits. Right? It's still helping them, alleviating some of that burden. And then another one is to look at your merit and bonus increase cycles. Typically, they're held within the first quarter of the year, but if you can, as an organization, maybe look at bumping that up before Thanksgiving time, right before Christmas, and providing those merit increases and bonuses.
And we just saw that inflation is still running hot. We do not know where the peak is. I'm asking you, how do you see things play out on the job market throughout the rest of the year?
And here's the thing, is that employers are going to have to be competitive with their wages, because that is what the job market is demanding. When companies are going on hiring freezes and contracting wages all at the same time, what it's doing is it's putting an increased workload on their existing employees, which is ultimately going to result in higher attrition numbers, and they're going to end up in a worse place than they were if they weren't investing in the current talent that they have on board right now.
So am I understanding you correctly? You still think a pay raise would be the right way to go?
It's one way. It's one way to go about it. We have to absolutely equip our leaders who are running and leading and managing the employees, especially the employees that are at the bottom of the organization. This is where inflation is hitting the hardest right now. When you're talking about maybe a single mom who a year ago was paying $40 to fill up her gas tank is now having to pay $100, right? Going down to just a first step, going down to the bottom of your organization and leaning in and having those conversations.
Thanks a lot for your advice on this. I appreciate it. Carly Walden, Talent War Group.
Thank you for having me.
Just ahead, Italy's president rejected the resignation of the country's prime minister. Divisions among Italy's political parties are intensifying under the gravity of a general election set for next year. We'll have more for you after this short break.
In every country communism gains power, authoritarianism and death followed in its wake. Communism promises a world without suffering, and yet, in its execution, does the exact opposite. Following Lenin's death, Stalin's 29-year reign killed an estimated 60 to 66 million people. More famines and purges would occur. The very peasants that communism was supposed to benefit instead starved to death under its rule. The party dictates what is right and wrong. Mao ended up killing between 50 million and 70 million people. As an investigative journalist, I want to understand why.
Italy's president rejected the resignation of Prime Minister Mario Draghi on Thursday after a day of political drama that threatened to bring down a national unity government that's been in office less than 18 months.
After a day of political drama in Italy that threatened to send its government into chaos, Prime Minister Mario Draghi tried to tender his resignation on Thursday. However, Italy's president rejected Draghi's offer to leave. It's effectively put the government on pause until next week. President Sergio Mattarella asked Draghi to address Parliament to get a clearer picture of what's going on, and Draghi's expected to do that next Wednesday. Draghi had said earlier on Thursday he intended to resign after a confidence vote on his government and its approach to fighting inflation. He won it, but without the backing of the Five Star Movement, a coalition party. Draghi had upped the stakes by saying he would not want to lead his 18-month-old government without Five Star, which itself emerged as the largest party in the last election, 2018. But since then, it has seen defections and diminishing public support. Divisions among Italy's political parties over major issues are only growing worse, under the gravity of a general election set for next year.
A man shot dead in British Columbia on Thursday is reported to be a Canadian Sikh businessman acquitted in connection with an Air India bombing in 1985. Rapudaman Singh Malik was charged with bombing Flight 182 that killed over 300 people. He was acquitted in 2005. Police say they found a man suffering from gunshot wounds when officers responded to a call Thursday morning. The statement from the Royal Canadian Mounted Police did not name the man, saying he died on the scene in Surrey, British Columbia. An RCMP spokesperson said they could not name the victim as the investigation was ongoing. Local media, citing sources and a witness, reported that the man was Malik.
And in some more lighthearted news, we saw beautiful sights in France yesterday. Paris closed Bastille Day celebrations with a nighttime fireworks show set off from the Eiffel Tower. The spectacle included a show of support for Ukraine, with the tower lit in blue and yellow color. It was accompanied by this year's winning Eurovision song by Ukrainian band Kalush. The French National Day is the anniversary of the storming of the Bastille on the 14th of July in 1789, a major event during the French Revolution, as well as the Fête de la Fédération that celebrates the unity of the French people that day. Celebrations are held throughout France. One that has been reported as the oldest and largest military parade in Europe is held in Paris on the Champs-Élysées in front of the French president, along with other French officials and foreign guests. And coming right up, a sheriff's academy surprised a little girl going through a medical crisis with a special scavenger hunt and an even more special reward. That and more after the break.
NTD's Capital Report. It's about getting answers, cutting through the fog of politics. It's about your questions and our chances to ask.
What is the net impact of the American Congressman Graves? Thank you for joining us.
We're speaking to those in power to find out what does this mean for the people. We're here so you are in the know.
When it comes to law enforcement, we see more crime and tragedy on the news than we should, but there are positive stories as well. A sheriff's academy surprised a little girl going through a medical crisis with a special scavenger hunt and an even more special reward.
Here, I'll wear them for you.
On Thursday, little Aubrey came to the training grounds on Morgan Hill, southeast of San Jose, and became a junior sheriff recruit. Among the Santa Clara County Sheriff's Academy students, she is the youngest trainee. Aubrey navigated through a scavenger hunt and solved a case by locating the missing dress and slipper. And eventually, she caught the suspect and found a surprise.
We came into today thinking it was just a part of a training exercise, and here we are in tears. So overwhelmed, so grateful.
Aubrey is 8 years old. Her mother said Aubrey is going into her 18th surgery.
I mean, going through surgery for a tumor that's regrown is not easy. It's not an easy thing at all, but this is definitely going to lighten the load.
Silva said there's much uncertainty going into the surgery.
She had a mass removed in the top of her sinus cavity, pushing on the eye socket back in 2018, which was right before her Make-A-Wish trip. We didn't think that was going to happen, and it's since regrown. She's had a lot of fluid buildup with her immune deficiencies.
Aubrey says her favorite thing to do is spend time with family, and she shared her favorite Disney princess.
Gianna.
And why?
Because I like at the end of her movie she kisses a frog and she gets to go back to her happy place.
The Academy class of the Santa Clara County Sheriff's Department planned and paid for the Disneyland trip, putting Aubrey in tears.
You ran that way. Because I'm glad people care about me.
Silva said Aubrey used to be in a wheelchair, and that's when they met a deputy. One recruit said watching Aubrey go through the course reminded him of why he signed up to become an officer.
A lot of people, when we enlist for this job, we think about chasing cars, catching bad guys, putting them in jail. But we came together as a class, and we know that there's more to the job than that.
Disneyland! The Academy class designed the scavenger hunt in 1 week.
It's all about the community, how we can best serve our community.
And at the end of the day, we want, the next generation, the kids, to know that, we're here for them. And I think this is a great way to show them that.
After the training, Aubrey is scheduled to go into surgery the very next day, and we all hope she gains the confidence and strength she needs to push through and recover in order to see her favorite character at Disneyland. David Lamb, NTD News, California.
Exciting new images of Jupiter are now available thanks to some new technology from NASA. NASA's James Webb Space Telescope team unveiled images featuring Jupiter's rings, moons, and more on Tuesday. More photos released on Thursday highlight the $10 billion telescope's ability to study targets much closer to home. The photos feature some amazingly detailed shots of the deep and distant universe. Webb launched on December 25th. Designed to peer deep into the universe's past, astronomers now plan to use it to investigate a variety of cosmic objects and phenomena.
That's so fascinating. It's absolutely crazy, all the things that could be out there. Maybe one day we can explore a space tourist. I don't think we're that far away anymore to making it that accessible.
I mean, talk about an adventure. And Evelyn, I've actually observed the planets before with my reflector telescope. It's pretty cool. You can see Saturn's rings.
Pretty cool. You've got a telescope at home. I didn't know that. But moving on to something you can actually see with your bare eyes, a small bronze mirror from the 16th century. It was sitting in the storage of the Cincinnati Art Museum until someone started researching so-called magic mirrors. The mirror belongs to rare relics that reveal hidden images or patterns under a certain light. That gives it the name magic mirror. You can see an image of a Buddha surrounded by rays of light. And on the back, where the design is, an inscription spells out who's depicted. It's Amitabha, an important figure in various schools of East Asian Buddhism. The mirror has been in storage since it was last displayed in 2017. Now it will soon be out in the open again for all to see in a special exhibition.
That is really fascinating. I wonder how they made it.
Good question, me too. This discovery makes the museum one of only a handful of institutions in the world to own such a magic mirror. And that's actually all for today's program. Thank you for watching. I'm Evelyn Lee.
And I'm Kevin Hogan.
Thanks for watching us on YouTube. Did you know YouTube only keeps selective videos on its platform? So if you want to make sure you get the full picture, just subscribe to our newsletter. Go to newsletter.ntd.com and sign up. It's free.